What if one of the most famous paintings in history wasn't just art, but a secret code waiting to be unlocked? Imagine standing inside a quiet monastery in Milan in the late 1490s, where Leonardo da Vinci bends over his canvas, brush in hand, creating not only an image of the Last Supper but a riddle that has fascinated humanity for centuries. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because this masterpiece isn't just a depiction of a sacred meal. It's a layered puzzle of hidden meanings, symbols, and whispers from the mind of a genius. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Now think about this. How often do we look at something familiar, convinced we understand it, only to realize later that its true essence was concealed beneath the surface? Has this ever happened to you? That is exactly what Leonardo da Vinci intended when he painted the Last Supper. He wanted you to see more than a static scene of Christ and his apostles. He wanted you to question, to search, to feel as if every brushstroke carried a hidden message meant for your eyes alone. At first glance, the image seems simple. Jesus at the center, the apostles around him, sharing a final meal before betrayal and sacrifice. But Leonardo was never content with simplicity. He infused the work with riddles that transform it into more than art. It becomes a mirror, reflecting both faith and mystery. From the geometry of the composition to the choice of foods on the table, every detail hides a story. Stay with me until the end, because once you start to uncover these secrets, you'll never look at this painting the same way again. Think of the table itself. Instead of arranging the figures traditionally, Leonardo places everyone on the same side, as if inviting you to join them. The familiar white cloth, with its subtle blue stripes, echoes Jewish tradition, a reminder of Christ's cultural roots. Yet, just beside Judas, the man destined to betray, Leonardo paints a subtle but devastating detail: a spilled container of salt. In religious symbolism, salt means faith, loyalty, and purity. To see it knocked over by Judas is to witness betrayal foreshadowed not by words, but by the smallest gesture. Isn't it striking how one seemingly insignificant object can carry such a heavy meaning? And this is only the beginning. The Last Supper is not static. It is alive with coded messages. Da Vinci was a master not just of art, but of mathematics, proportion, and symbolism. He knew how to weave patterns into his work that would resonate for centuries, patterns hidden so carefully that only the most curious observers would ever notice them. What if I told you that even the bread and the hands on the table could form something far more surprising than a simple meal? What if the painting wasn't only meant to be seen, but also to be heard? This is the genius of Leonardo, blending the sacred and the scientific, the obvious and the invisible, until the painting becomes an experience that defies time. He transformed a moment of scripture into a timeless puzzle, one that still draws historians, musicians, mathematicians, and dreamers to its mystery. And yet, for all that has been studied and written, there is still more layers, more secrets, more questions that demand answers. Because the Last Supper, as you'll see, is not just a painting on a wall. It's Leonardo's invitation to look closer, to read between the lines, and to ask, what else lies hidden in plain sight? In the next part, we'll begin to peel back those layers and explore the astonishing clues that Da Vinci left for us. Clues that change everything we thought we knew about this masterpiece. If you enjoy uncovering hidden truths and exploring the deeper meaning behind art, history, and timeless ideas, make sure to subscribe so you won't miss the next revelations we dive into together. Leonardo da Vinci understood something profound. If you want people to connect with a scene, you can't place it on a distant pedestal. You have to bring it closer to them. That's why he broke with tradition, removing the glowing halos that had, for centuries, separated saints from ordinary men. Instead, he painted Christ and the apostles as human, vulnerable, and deeply relatable. They sit together, not as unreachable figures, but as people you might recognize in your own life, each with emotions etched across their faces. This was Leonardo's silent invitation, not to observe from afar, but to step into the room, to feel as if you, too, have a place at that table. The decision to line them all on the same side of the table was no accident. In most earlier depictions, apostles sat scattered around, their backs turned toward the viewer, as though the audience was intruding. But here, every figure is visible, open, and facing you. It is as if Leonardo is saying, "This is not their supper alone, it is yours as well." That single artistic choice transforms the painting from a frozen story into an intimate encounter, one where the boundary between observer and participant dissolves. Look at the table itself, draped in white with blue stripes. It seems simple at first, but it carries an unmistakable echo of Jewish tradition, grounding the moment in the cultural heritage of Jesus. For Leonardo, details were never mere decoration. They were layers of meaning. The cloth is not just fabric. It is a reminder of roots, identity, and the continuity of a people's history, woven into the very heart of the scene. It is here that art ceases to be only visual and becomes a message about belonging, memory, and the unspoken truth that even the smallest details hold the weight of centuries. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when you begin to notice how Leonardo plays with tradition and reinvents it, you realize he is guiding your mindset toward transformation. He's showing that choices, like the decision to omit halos or to seat everyone together, can change the impact of a story entirely. It's a lesson not only about art, but about perspective, about how we frame our own lives. Sometimes the difference between feeling distant and feeling connected is only a matter of how we choose to see. And when we shift that lens, whole new truths begin to emerge. Hidden truths that were always there, waiting, just beyond the surface. Write in the comments, "This makes sense to me," if you also feel that even small decisions can transform the way we see a story, or even the way we see our own journey. When our gaze shifts to Judas, the atmosphere of the painting changes. Leonardo casts him in shadow, a deliberate choice that separates him from the others without the need for words. Darkness wraps around his face, and in his hand rests the small coin purse, the payment of betrayal. It is not flashy or exaggerated. It is subtle, almost hidden, in plain sight, as though Leonardo wanted us to feel the weight of that choice more than simply see it. This is where art becomes more than image. It becomes psychology, revealing how decisions, once made, carry shadows long before they unfold in reality. Then there's the gesture, almost accidental yet deeply symbolic, Judas's elbow tipping over a container of salt. To the casual viewer, it may look like a slip of clumsiness, but within the mindset of the time, spilling salt was never just careless. It was a sign of broken trust, a bad omen, a hidden truth about loyalty lost. Leonardo, who understood the language of symbols as well as he did paint, placed this detail like a whispered secret in the middle of the scene. With one small motion, Judas betrays not only Christ, but also the very idea of purity and fidelity. It is a revelation made not through dialogue, but through silence on the canvas. The impact of this detail is profound, because it teaches us something universal. Betrayal rarely arrives with loud announcements. More often, it begins with small cracks, gestures, or choices that seem insignificant until you step back and see the bigger picture. That is the genius of Leonardo's storytelling. He reminds us that even the smallest actions can shift the entire journey of a life, changing destinies in ways that cannot be undone. Behind the scenes of this sacred supper, he is showing us the anatomy of broken trust, a pattern as relevant now as it was centuries ago. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when we notice how Leonardo layers light, shadow, and symbolism, it forces us to reflect on our own decisions. How often do we ignore the spilled salt in our lives, the warning signs of fractured loyalty or misplaced trust? How often do we hold on to our own coin purses, clutching them tightly, without realizing the cost they will demand? These are the hidden truths that Leonardo weaves into the fabric of his work, not only for contemplation of faith, but also as a mirror for the human condition. If you feel this idea resonates with your own experiences of trust, choices, or the weight of consequences, write in the comments, "I see the hidden truth." It will be powerful to notice how many others are reflecting on the same journey while uncovering the secrets of this masterpiece. On the surface, the food on the table may appear ordinary, yet Leonardo never painted anything without intention. Among the bread and wine lies the presence of fish, perhaps eel, perhaps herring, and with it, layers of meaning that stretch far beyond a simple meal. To the eye, it seems like a detail of hospitality, but to the mind, it whispers a code. In Italian, the word ora for eel carries echoes of words tied to indoctrination and religion, creating a subtle play on language. It is as though Leonardo was leaving a puzzle not in paint alone, but in words, reminding us that meaning often hides in the spaces where art and language meet. What fascinates scholars is how this single detail can reshape the entire interpretation of the scene. Some believe the choice of fish carries with it a shadow of prophecy, hinting at Peter's coming denial of Christ. Imagine that, one of Christ's closest companions, the one destined to deny him 3 times, already prefigured in the meal placed before them. Leonardo's genius lies in this foresight, embedding revelation within the ordinary, transforming what looks like supper into a narrative of faith, weakness, and consequence. This speaks to a mindset Leonardo seemed to embody, that the smallest decisions often reveal the deepest truths. What fish he chose, how he placed it, the words it resembled, these choices were not accidental. They were deliberate, designed to challenge the observer's perception, to provoke thought long after the first glance. Behind the scenes of this masterpiece, the table becomes a stage for transformation, where every element is a silent actor telling its part of the story. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when you begin to recognize how layers of symbolism connect food, language, and prophecy, you see how Leonardo wanted to create an impact that was both immediate and timeless. It's not only about what the apostles ate, it's about the journey that meal represented, the choices yet to be made, the loyalties that would fracture, the courage that would falter. And isn't that the essence of human experience? That what seems simple often carries the weight of hidden truth? If this perspective speaks to you, leave in the comments, "I see the hidden layers." Because acknowledging these layers is also a reminder of how much meaning lies beneath the surface of our own stories, waiting to be uncovered. Among the many curious details Leonardo placed on the table, the presence of oranges might be the most puzzling. They were not fruits that existed in Jerusalem at the time of the Last Supper, which means their appearance cannot be brushed off as historical accuracy. Instead, they signal symbolic intent. To some, the oranges allude to gluttony, a subtle commentary on excess and temptation, weaving yet another layer of hidden truth into the scene. To others, they represent Leonardo's artistic license, his decision to detach the supper slightly from its Jewish roots and recast it within a broader symbolic framework. Whatever the case, their bright color and unexpected presence remind us that Leonardo painted not merely what was known, but what was meant to provoke reflection. He was not documenting, he was interpreting, guiding our mindset toward questioning the surface to discover deeper revelations. This is where the painting begins to feel almost alive, as if each object carries its own secret agenda. Bread, salt, fish, fruit, every element becomes a messenger, hinting at decisions, betrayals, and transformations yet to unfold. The table is no longer a simple setting for a meal, but a coded tapestry, where each symbol interacts with the others. Behind the scenes of the brushwork lies a complex language, one that rewards anyone willing to look closer and see beyond the obvious. It is this layering that makes The Last Supper not just a painting, but an ongoing conversation across centuries. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because in 2007, a discovery reignited the mystery in an entirely new way. A musician and researcher noticed that if a musical staff is placed across the table, the position of the apostles' hands and the loaves of bread align like notes in a score, played from right to left. In the way Leonardo often wrote, those notes form a haunting melody, a hymn hidden in the silence of paint for over 500 years. Imagine the impact of this revelation, a painting that was never meant to be only seen, but also heard, carrying within it the possibility of transformation from visual art into music. It feels almost like a secret performance, preserved across time, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered. If this idea resonates with you, write in the comments, "I can hear the hidden song," because when you acknowledge this possibility, you join the journey of those who look beyond appearances, searching for meaning in the places where others see only silence. When we imagine the Last Supper as more than just paint on plaster, a new dimension of experience opens before us. The discovery that the apostles' hands and the loaves of bread align like musical notes feels almost unbelievable at first, and yet it makes perfect sense within the world of Leonardo. He was never content to limit himself to one discipline. His genius thrived at the crossroads of art, science, and sound. Reading the composition from right to left, just as he preferred to write, those scattered gestures suddenly transform into a haunting hymn, a melody hidden in silence for centuries. It is as though the painting was not finished until someone listened. This revelation changes the way we understand the impact of Leonardo's work. The Last Supper ceases to be a static image frozen in time, and instead becomes a living score, capable of stirring emotions not only through sight, but also through sound. Art turns into music, silence becomes song, and the boundaries between disciplines dissolve in a seamless flow of creativity. In that moment, you begin to realize that Leonardo wasn't simply painting a religious scene. He was orchestrating an experience, guiding the viewer into a mindset of transformation, where revelation emerges through layers that at first seemed unrelated. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because what this hidden melody suggests is a profound shift in perspective. Behind the scenes of brushstrokes and pigments lies a universal truth. That meaning often waits quietly beneath the surface, disguised until the right eyes, or ears, are ready to uncover it. And isn't that the essence of life itself? So many decisions, so many hidden truths, often go unnoticed until someone has the courage to pay attention. Just like the hymn embedded in the table, our own journeys are filled with silent notes waiting to be heard, choices that hold the power to transform everything once revealed. It is in this intersection, where art becomes sound and symbol becomes revelation, that Leonardo leaves us not with answers, but with an invitation to keep searching, to keep listening, and to recognize that sometimes the most extraordinary discoveries are hidden in the most ordinary places. If you feel that this idea resonates with your own journey of uncovering meaning where others see only the obvious, write in the comments, "I can feel the impact." Because acknowledging it is also embracing the possibility that the hidden song of our own lives is waiting to be played. The very idea that a secret song could remain hidden for centuries inside a painting tells us everything we need to know about Leonardo's genius. He wasn't merely creating art for his own time, he was designing experiences meant to unfold across generations, as though he trusted that humanity's curiosity would one day catch up with his vision. It is in that quiet layering of meaning that we see the true depth of his mindset, an ability to merge imagination and precision so seamlessly that the line between art and code disappears. And just as music brings harmony out of silence, Leonardo used structure to bring divine order out of chaos. Look closely at the composition, and you'll notice that geometry quietly governs everything. The table stretches in perfect proportion, the windows frame the scene like deliberate portals, and Christ's very body forms the center of a triangle. Nothing is accidental here. Leonardo's choices echo the symbolic strength of the number 3, a shape both stable and sacred. Triangles dominate the scene not only as mathematical perfection, but as visual reminders of the Holy Trinity. Each angle, each intersection, becomes part of a larger design, guiding the eye back to the center where Christ sits, calm and unshaken, as the world around him erupts in motion. This use of repetition, of form echoing meaning, is where the painting transcends narrative and becomes revelation. 3 windows open behind Christ, pouring light into the room and reinforcing the sacred symbolism. 3 groups of apostles sit together, each a reflection of unity and division at the same time. It is a geometry that doesn't just structure the painting, it shapes the viewer's perception, pulling us into a rhythm we can feel even if we don't consciously see it. Leonardo understood that the mind responds to patterns, and by embedding these structures, he wasn't only painting faith, he was designing impact. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the harmony of these forms speaks to something beyond mathematics or religion. It speaks to transformation itself. Just as triangles create balance by distributing weight evenly, our own lives find strength in the moments where structure meets meaning, where decisions form patterns that guide the journey ahead. Leonardo reminds us that what seems like simple design is in fact hidden truth, waiting for us to recognize how much order lies behind the scenes of what first appears chaotic. If this reflection resonates with you, write in the comments, "I see the pattern," because recognizing the patterns in this masterpiece is also a way of acknowledging the patterns in our own stories, the structures that quietly shape who we become. The repetition of 3 is not only a structural choice, but a symbolic pulse running through the entire painting. The apostles gathered in groups of 3 form a rhythm of unity and division, almost like chords in the hidden hymn Leonardo embedded in the table. Behind Christ, the 3 windows cast light into the scene, as though the world outside aligns with the divine geometry inside. Each element seems carefully orchestrated to remind us that nothing in this work exists without purpose. It's a visual symphony of order, faith, and revelation, a silent language that speaks directly to the soul. And yet, within this perfect balance, Leonardo introduces disruption. Look at Peter. His body leans forward with intensity, his expression hardened, his hand clutching a knife. That blade isn't random decoration. It foreshadows the violence that will follow, the moment in Gethsemane when Peter will strike out in anger. Leonardo captures not the serenity of saints, but the turbulence of men wrestling with fear, loyalty, and destiny. It is a reminder that faith exists alongside doubt, and courage is often tangled with weakness. The knife becomes more than a weapon. It is a symbol of decisions made in desperation, the kind of choices that alter the course of a journey forever. What's striking is how this single detail breaks the calm harmony of geometry, while the triangles and the sacred repetition of 3 point toward order and divine design. Peter's knife reminds us of the chaos of human nature. Leonardo was painting not only divinity, but humanity in all its contradictions. Behind the scenes of symmetry lies tension, an unspoken truth about the fragility of even the most sacred bonds. This is where the painting stops being only a scene from Scripture and becomes a mirror for our own lives, reflecting the constant struggle between clarity and confusion, peace and conflict, devotion and fear. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because Peter's gesture is more than foreshadowing. It's transformation captured in a single moment. It reveals how quickly a mindset can shift from loyalty to violence, from faith to panic, and how the impact of those shifts echoes far beyond the instant they occur. Leonardo challenges us to see not just a disciple with a knife, but the universal human condition, the weight of decisions, the pressure of fear, and the hidden truth that our actions often betray what we claim to believe. If this perspective resonates with you, write in the comments, "I see the tension," because noticing that tension in the Last Supper is also a way of recognizing the inner conflicts that shape our own journey. Right beside Peter's tense gesture, another contrast unfolds. John, the youngest apostle, leans forward with a softness that almost dissolves into the scene. His posture has been described as swooning, tender, almost fragile, and it stands in stark opposition to Peter's clenched fist and hidden blade. Leonardo understood the impact of juxtaposition, placing calm next to fury, innocence next to violence, to remind us that truth often emerges in the tension between opposites. John becomes a symbol of vulnerability, the quiet presence that absorbs the storm of emotions swirling around the table. It's as if Leonardo is showing us the duality of human nature, the capacity for gentleness even in the shadow of betrayal. Then there is Judas, set apart not by grand gestures but by subtle choices. He is the only figure drinking milk instead of wine, and though the detail seems small, it is heavy with symbolism. Wine, steeped in tradition and tied to covenant, unites the group. Milk, in this context, separates. It isolates Judas further, marking him as disconnected from the sacred ritual, foreshadowing the break in loyalty that will define his place in history. Leonardo does not shout Judas's role. He whispers it through these quiet exclusions, reminding us that separation often begins with subtle decisions that gradually create distance from the collective. And then, perhaps the most striking decision of all, every apostle seated on the same side of the table, their faces open, visible, meeting our gaze. In a time when artists followed strict traditions, Leonardo broke them with bold clarity. No backs turned, no figures hidden. Each apostle is part of a living dialogue with the viewer. It is a transformation of the way art speaks, shifting from passive storytelling to active engagement. Suddenly, we are no longer outside observers. We are participants, drawn into a moment that transcends centuries. Behind the scenes of this artistic revolution lies a hidden truth about connection. When we see every face, we recognize every emotion. And when we recognize every emotion, we find pieces of ourselves. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because this arrangement reveals something about Leonardo's vision of humanity. He was not simply illustrating a biblical scene. He was creating a mirror, a table where faith, doubt, loyalty, and betrayal all sit side by side, just as they do in our own lives. The Last Supper becomes less about 12 apostles and more about the human journey itself, a reminder that our choices and contradictions are always visible, always telling a story whether we realize it or not. If you feel that this perspective reflects something real in your own experience, write in the comments, "I see myself at the table," because in truth, that is exactly what Leonardo intended, for each of us to find our place in the story he so carefully painted. Leonardo's decision to place every apostle on the same side of the table opens a door that few artists before him dared to touch. It transforms the painting into an invitation, where the viewer is not left standing outside the frame, but welcomed into the scene itself. By ensuring that each figure looks outward, each expression visible and unhidden, he creates a dialogue not just between the apostles, but between them and us. It's as though Leonardo understood that the true impact of art lies not in its ability to remain untouchable, but in its power to reflect something back to those who dare to meet its gaze. This is where the canvas stops being silent and begins to speak. What makes this even more profound is the way Leonardo guides our vision with extraordinary precision. All the architectural lines, the beams, the walls, the edges of the table, converge toward a single vanishing point. And that point is not just anywhere. It rests on Christ's right temple. With this choice, Leonardo ensures that no matter how much our eyes wander across the canvas, they are always drawn back to the center, to Christ himself. It is a masterful use of perspective, a reminder that while chaos swirls around, there is always an anchor, a point of clarity that holds everything together. This subtle design is not only technical brilliance, it is also symbolic. The right temple, close to the seat of thought and decision, becomes the place where all energy, motion, and tension converge. Leonardo is telling us that even in the midst of betrayal, doubt, and confusion, the figure of Christ remains the axis of balance. In a world full of distraction, the painting teaches us the mindset of return, the ability to be pulled back to what matters most. It is a revelation about focus, about the power of centering oneself when everything else feels scattered. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because the way Leonardo manipulates vision is also a lesson about transformation. Just as the vanishing point redirects the viewer's eye, life often redirects our own journeys toward moments of clarity. Behind the scenes of every distraction lies a pattern, a geometry of experience that insists we come back to the truth we've been avoiding. The painting becomes a metaphor for our own decisions. No matter how far we drift, there is always a center waiting to draw us back. If you feel this interpretation resonates with your own experiences of finding clarity amidst chaos, write in the comments, "I see the center," because acknowledging that pull is also embracing the hidden truth that focus is not imposed. It is revealed. As the centuries passed, the Last Supper grew into more than a masterpiece of art history. It became a canvas for speculation, a stage where countless theories unfolded. Beyond the balance of geometry and the beauty of symbolism, many began to search for secret codes, believing Leonardo had left hidden numbers and encrypted messages woven into the very fabric of the scene. This idea, that a painting could double as a cipher, ignites curiosity because it forces us to see the work not as static, but as alive, full of possibilities just beyond the obvious. It's the mindset of discovery, the belief that what is visible might only be the surface of something far deeper. Among these theories, one of the most provocative suggests that Mary Magdalene herself is encoded within the composition. Some interpret the figure beside Christ, traditionally seen as the Apostle John, as a feminine presence, a deliberate insertion of Magdalene into the sacred meal. Whether this is fact or fiction almost matters less than the impact of the idea itself. It transforms the way we view the painting, raising questions about inclusion, power, and the hidden truths of history that linger behind the scenes of sacred narratives. Leonardo's art becomes more than visual. It becomes a mirror reflecting our hunger to uncover what was silenced or forgotten. Others argue that the faces of the apostles were not imagined at all, but drawn from real people in Milan, even criminals whose features Leonardo immortalized in this holy gathering. Think about the weight of that claim. Ordinary citizens, flawed and imperfect, elevated into one of the most famous religious moments in history. If true, it suggests a revelation about Leonardo's vision of humanity, that the divine story was not reserved for the idealized, but could be found in the raw, imperfect reality of those around him. It is a radical transformation of perspective, collapsing the distance between sacred and ordinary, saint and sinner. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because whether or not these theories hold historical accuracy, their existence reveals something powerful, that the Last Supper was never meant to be consumed passively. It demands interpretation, speculation, and participation. Every hidden number, every debated figure, every whisper of secret identity speaks to a deeper truth. That meaning is not fixed, but constantly renewed by the eyes that search for it. In this way, Leonardo's masterpiece doesn't just portray a moment in time. It becomes a journey, one where each generation discovers its own revelations. If this reflection sparks your curiosity, write in the comments, "I search for the hidden truth," because by doing so, you're not just responding to the painting, you're continuing the very dialogue Leonardo set in motion over 500 years ago. Even if many of the theories lean more toward imagination than proven fact, they reveal something crucial. The Last Supper radiates an aura of mystery so powerful that it invites endless questioning. Leonardo created a work that refuses to settle into one fixed interpretation, and perhaps that was his greatest intention. By leaving traces of ambiguity, he ensured that curiosity would always surround it, that each generation would return to the table searching for answers. This mindset of wonder is part of the painting's genius, its ability to stay alive by never being fully solved. What gives weight to this mystery is that nothing on the canvas is casual. Every gesture, every loaf of bread, every shadow was placed with purpose. Leonardo did not allow for randomness. The tilt of a head, the spill of salt, the separation of hands, all of it is language written in paint. He was building layers upon layers, each capable of carrying different meanings, so that the painting could speak differently depending on who was watching. It's a revelation about intentionality. When decisions are made with awareness, even the smallest details carry impact far beyond what seems possible in the moment. In this sense, the Last Supper becomes far more than a biblical story. It becomes a riddle, crafted in plain sight. A riddle not only about faith and betrayal, but about perception, about how we choose to see and interpret the world around us. Leonardo challenges us to question the obvious, to search beneath the surface for hidden truths, and to recognize that behind the scenes of any story, there is always more than meets the eye. This is why the work endures, why it feels timeless, because it doesn't just tell us what happened, it invites us into the journey of discovery itself. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when we see the Last Supper as a riddle, rather than just a scene, we begin to recognize how it mirrors our own lives. Aren't our experiences also full of layered details, small gestures, and overlooked signs that only reveal their meaning later? The painting becomes a metaphor for transformation, for the way decisions and hidden truths shape the course of our journey. Just as viewers across centuries decode its mysteries, we too are decoding the mysteries of our own stories, learning to see significance in what once felt ordinary. If this idea speaks to you, write in the comments, "I live the riddle." Because acknowledging life as a riddle is embracing the depth of every moment, every choice, every symbol that carries us forward. The table itself becomes a stage where every object whispers of larger truths. It is not simply set for a meal. It is burdened with meaning, carrying symbols of betrayal, sacrifice, and faith. Each detail transforms into a piece of the riddle Leonardo intended us to solve, a reminder that the extraordinary often hides in the ordinary. Bread is no longer just bread, salt is no longer seasoning, and wine becomes more than drink. The table is a map of choices, consequences, and hidden truths, all waiting for the observer to decode. What strikes us most is how the painting captures devotion and human weakness side by side. Judas clutches his coin purse in shadow, a man whose decision to betray alters history. Peter grips his knife, foreshadowing rash violence born of loyalty mixed with fear. These two figures, so different yet united by their flaws, reflect the fragile nature of humanity. Leonardo shows us that weakness exists not apart from faith, but within it, that devotion does not erase doubt or failure, but often grows in the same soil. It is this paradox that makes the work timeless, for who among us has not wrestled with the tension between belief and frailty? And then there is the harmony, the balance, between sacred geometry and subtle human drama. Leonardo fuses science and spirituality in a way no one else dared at the time. The precision of perspective, the mathematical order of triangles and repeating threes, flows seamlessly into the emotions etched on each face. Logic and feeling coexist without conflict. Reason and revelation interlace like threads in the same tapestry. This balance is the hidden truth behind his genius. He understood that transformation happens when opposites are reconciled, when the structure of science holds space for the vulnerability of the spirit. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because in this fusion lies a lesson not only about art, but about life. Our own journeys are filled with this same duality, the desire for order and the inevitability of chaos, the pursuit of faith and the reality of weakness, the need for structure and the pull of emotion. Leonardo was not only painting a biblical scene, he was showing us the blueprint of the human condition. The Last Supper becomes a mirror reflecting the way devotion and doubt, science and spirit, pattern and unpredictability coexist in all of us. If you feel this reflection resonates with your own life, write in the comments, "I live the balance," because in naming it, you affirm the truth that harmony is not found in perfection, but in the ongoing dance between strength and vulnerability. Even after 5 centuries, the Last Supper has not lost its ability to spark speculation. It continues to draw observers into its silence, inviting them to question whether its surface hides music, codes, or encrypted messages that speak across time. The fascination isn't only about what Leonardo may have hidden, but about the mindset he cultivated in us, an openness to curiosity, to the possibility that meaning often waits behind the scenes, disguised as ordinary detail. This is why the painting still feels alive. It refuses to close itself, leaving space for interpretation, for transformation, for revelations that adapt to the viewer's journey. The genius of Leonardo lies not just in technical mastery, but in his ability to fuse clarity with ambiguity. He gives us geometry precise enough to satisfy the scientist, emotion raw enough to move the believer, and mystery profound enough to intrigue the dreamer. And in doing so, he ensures that the Last Supper remains both masterpiece and mystery. It is not just a frozen image of devotion, but a riddle that continues to whisper, as if the painting itself knows that truth is never final, but always unfolding. This is the hidden truth that keeps us returning, the sense that something more is still waiting to be uncovered, if only we dare to look closer. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because what lingers most about the Last Supper is not only its beauty, but its persistence. It endures as a timeless reminder that art is not simply about representation, it is about impact. Leonardo created a work that extends beyond its moment in history, speaking to transformation, decisions, faith, weakness, and the balance of opposites. And it still whispers today, not with the voice of the past, but with the echo of our own questions, our own reflections, our own search for meaning. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "I hear the whispers," because by acknowledging that you hear them, you join a centuries-long conversation with Leonardo himself, one that continues every time someone stops to truly see. And if you've stayed with me all the way here, it tells me this journey meant something to you. That's exactly why I invite you to subscribe. So every time we uncover stories, symbols, and hidden truths like these, you'll be right here to explore them with me. Leave a comment saying I'm with you until the end, so I know you were part of this conversation from start to finish. And if this reflection connected with you, give the video a like. It's a simple way of saying we're on the same wavelength. There's a video right here that complements this topic. Click and continue with me over there, because the story doesn't stop here.